The galaxy had been at war for centuries. Powerful alien factions, each with their own agendas, fought for control over planets, resources, and dominance. While the war raged on, humanity had stayed away. Earth had only recently begun to explore space, launching small missions to understand the stars and the planets beyond their own. But they never imagined they would become part of this galactic struggle. It happened by accident. A human exploration ship, the Vanguard, was charting a new star system on the outer rim of the galaxy. It was a peaceful mission, a routine voyage meant to study planetary atmospheres and distant moons. But as the ship entered the sector, they stumbled upon a battle, one that had been raging for days. Massive alien warships, each much larger and more powerful than anything the humans had ever seen, clashed in the void of space. Explosions echoed through the stars, and laser fire lit up the darkness. The crew of the Vanguard was caught off guard. Captain Daniel Hayes stood on the bridge, staring at the view screen, his eyes wide in disbelief. He had seen space battles on the news, of course, but nothing like this. The ships were enormous, and their weapons were unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. The Vanguard was small, barely armed for its mission, and it had no business getting involved in something this big. Captain, the communications officer, Lieutenant Emma Cross, called out, her voice shaky. "We're too close. We need to get out of here." Hayes didn't respond immediately. He was lost in thought, trying to process the situation. The Vanguard was just a tiny speck in the midst of a full-scale battle between alien forces. But even in the chaos, something caught his eye. A ship, larger than any he had seen, was being attacked by multiple enemies. It was disabled, floating helplessly, and at that moment, Hayes made a decision. "Prepare for evasive maneuvers," Hayes ordered. "We're going in." "Captain, are you insane?" Emma's voice rose in shock. "We can't just sit here and watch," Hayes replied firmly. "We have the technology to help them. If we don't, they'll be wiped out." Despite their protests, the crew moved quickly to prepare for what was about to happen. The Vanguard was no warship, but it was fast, and it had weapons that could make a difference in the right hands. As the crew focused on getting the ship into position, Hayes couldn't shake the feeling that this moment would change everything for humanity. The Vanguard raced toward the damaged alien ship. Hayes knew they were outmatched, but there was no turning back. He had made the decision. As they approached, the Vanguard fired a few warning shots, targeting the enemy ship's weapons systems. The plan was simple: disable them enough to give the alien ship a fighting chance. The universe was about to learn that humanity, despite its inexperience, was willing to take risks, and the Vanguard's crew was about to make their first move in a war that had nothing to do with them, yet everything to do with their future. The universe would never look at humans the same way again. The Vanguard's crew had done the unthinkable. They had entered the middle of a galactic war, aiming to help a wounded alien ship. The universe had never seen anything like it. While other species would have run in fear or avoided the conflict, humanity's first move was to act. But what happened next stunned everyone, including the humans themselves. As the Vanguard raced towards the disabled alien ship, its crew worked quickly to disable the attacking alien vessels. Captain Hayes had given the order to fire, but no one on board had truly expected the results. The human ship's weapons, simple compared to the powerful alien armadas, somehow struck with incredible precision. The first shot hit the enemy ship's engines, causing a burst of sparks and a massive explosion. The enemy ship staggered and veered off course, leaving the Vanguard untouched. "Captain, how did that even happen?" Lieutenant Cross asked, staring in disbelief at the control panels. "Our weapons shouldn't be that effective." Hayes himself was just as stunned. "I don't know, but it worked." "Fire again. Target the weapons array." The crew continued to fire, each shot more effective than the last. With each successful hit, the humans grew bolder. They aimed for weak spots on the alien ships, places they had never studied, relying only on intuition and instinct. Every shot from the Vanguard hit its mark with almost unnatural accuracy. It was as if the ship and its crew were in perfect harmony with the battlefield, despite having no formal combat training or experience with alien technology. Meanwhile, the alien forces were beginning to notice. The smaller, agile human ship had become a major threat. At first, they had dismissed it, thinking it was a harmless scout ship. But now, with the damage it had caused, the attacking alien fleet was forced to reconsider. How is this possible? An alien commander, Drax, muttered as he watched the humans' performance from his flagship. He was stunned by the unexpected effectiveness of their weapons. It wasn't just their technology. It was the humans' sheer unpredictability. They didn't follow any of the usual patterns of war. They didn't rely on brute force or overwhelming numbers. Instead, they fought with cunning, adapting to the battlefield in ways the aliens had never seen. The damage to the attacking fleet was growing, and the universe was beginning to take notice. News of the humans' interference spread quickly, reaching every corner of the galaxy. Some alien factions were amused, thinking it was a mistake or a fluke. Others were alarmed, realizing that humanity might be more than just a nuisance. They could be a force to be reckoned with. On the Vanguard, the crew was starting to understand just how different they were. They weren't just fighting for survival. They were changing the rules of warfare. And this was only the beginning. As the battle raged on, it became clear that humanity wasn't just entering the war. They were making their mark in ways no one expected. And now, every alien force in the galaxy would have to reconsider their views of the humans. The Vanguard's crew had just made the first major step in a conflict that would shake the universe to its core. The Vanguard had proven itself a formidable opponent in the ongoing galactic war, but it was only a small part of a much larger picture. Despite their victory, the humans on board knew they had only taken the first step. The real battle was still ahead. The galaxy was vast, filled with powerful alien factions, and now humanity had made its presence known. But what would they do next? Captain Hayes paced back and forth in the briefing room, his mind working overtime. The Vanguard had suffered some damage, but nothing they couldn't fix. The ship had proven itself capable, even against overwhelming odds. But the question remained, was this enough to tip the balance in humanity's favor? The human crew had fought bravely, but they were still a small force compared to the galactic powers around them. "We've shown them we can fight," Hayes said, addressing his crew. "But this war is far from over. We need to be smarter, faster, and more resourceful than they expect. We've already disrupted their plans. Now we make sure they know we're not going anywhere." Lieutenant Cross looked at him with a mix of determination and concern. "Captain, we've taken down a few enemy ships, but there are fleets out there we've barely scratched. We're not even close to matching their numbers or firepower." Hayes nodded, knowing full well the reality of their situation. But something deep inside him told him that the humans were capable of more than just brute force. They were survivors. They had the ability to adapt and think on their feet, something the alien forces hadn't fully accounted for. "We're not going to win this war with weapons alone," Hayes said. "We need to outthink them. We have to become the unpredictable element in this war. They may have superior firepower, but we have the advantage of being underestimated." The crew had no illusions about the challenges ahead. But one thing was clear: the humans were not going to back down. In the days that followed, the Vanguard's crew became more than just a group of soldiers. They became a team united by a single purpose. They spent countless hours training, learning new tactics, and studying their alien enemies. What they lacked in numbers, they made up for in ingenuity. Humanity's strength lay not in its weapons, but in its relentless resolve. The Vanguard was small compared to the alien fleets, but its crew refused to give up. They quickly adapted to alien technologies, reverse engineering whatever they could salvage from their fallen enemies. Each victory, no matter how small, fueled their drive. The humans were proving a point. The universe may have been dominated by powerful alien forces for eons, but they had overlooked one thing: humanity's ability to adapt, innovate, and survive against all odds. They weren't just here to fight. They were here to make a difference. With every passing day, humanity's reputation in the galaxy grew. The alien fleets that once considered humans a mere curiosity now saw them as a legitimate threat. And as the Vanguard's crew prepared for their next mission, they knew one thing for sure: they would not be intimidated. The humans were in this war to win, and they would do whatever it took to come out on top. The universe was waking up to the fact that humanity was not just another player in the war. It was becoming a force to be reckoned with. As the battle raged on across the galaxy, humanity's sudden involvement began to shift the dynamics of the war in ways no one could have predicted. The Vanguard's crew, along with the other human warships that followed, had shown time and time again that they were capable of more than just surviving. They were capable of winning. But now, the larger question emerged. How would the galactic factions respond to this unexpected force? It didn't take long for the alien factions to start taking humanity seriously. The once dismissed humans, seen as nothing more than a small primitive species, had turned the tide in multiple battles. Now, alien leaders who had previously written off the humans as a non-issue were beginning to reconsider. Some saw an opportunity to form alliances, while others viewed humanity as a threat that needed to be contained. On the bridge of the Vanguard, Captain Hayes watched the latest intelligence reports. His mind raced with the possibilities. The Vanguard had been successful, but now the question was whether they could keep this momentum going. With the enemy forces regrouping, new strategies needed to be developed. "We can't keep doing this on our own," Hayes said, pacing back and forth in front of the crew. "We need allies, and we need them now. But we have to be careful. We don't want to become pawns in someone else's game." Lieutenant Cross nodded. "We've made a lot of enemies, but I think we've also gained the attention of some powerful allies. The Xanthi Council has reached out. They want to talk." The Xanthi were one of the oldest and most influential factions in the galaxy. They controlled several key trade routes and had long been involved in the war against the enemies who had first attacked the Vanguard. They had watched the humans' surprising success with interest, and now they saw an opportunity to gain an upper hand in the war by aligning with them. "They've asked for a meeting," Cross continued. "They want to form an alliance. It's not just about mutual survival. They see potential in us." Hayes frowned. "Are they looking for an equal partnership, or are they just trying to use us?" That was the million-credit question. The Xanthi were a clever species, known for their political maneuvering. While they had the power to be great allies, they also had a reputation for manipulating weaker factions to their benefit. Hayes had to tread carefully. "We need to make sure they understand one thing," Hayes said, his voice firm. "We're not going to be anyone's puppet. We'll work with them if it benefits us, but we won't let them control us." At the meeting, the Xanth representatives made their case. They offered access to their trade routes, advanced technology, and a wealth of resources to help humanity continue fighting. But there was something off about the way they spoke. They weren't offering an equal partnership. They were offering terms that subtly placed humanity in a dependent position. Captain Hayes wasn't fooled. After careful consideration, he turned down the alliance with the Xanth. Instead, he proposed something far more audacious. "We'll form a coalition," he said, "a group of like-minded species who want to end this war, not just survive it. But we won't be subservient to anyone." The Xanthi were taken aback by the humans' boldness, but they had no choice but to accept. In the end, the humans had made their point. They would not be manipulated. The universe was waking up to the fact that humanity wasn't just a new player. They were a force to be reckoned with, and they would not settle for anything less than respect. And so, the shifting alliances began. The galactic balance was changing, and humanity was at the center of it all. As the Vanguard prepared for the next phase of the war, Captain Hayes knew that the true battle was no longer just about weapons. It was about power, influence, and the future of humanity in the stars. The universe would have to reckon with humanity, whether they liked it or not. Humanity had not just entered the war. They were making waves. Their sudden appearance on the galactic battlefield had shocked the universe, but now the true test was upon them. The Vanguard had shown the galaxy that humans could hold their own, but they needed more. They needed to prove that they could win a large-scale battle, one that would shift the balance of power in their favor. Eden Prime was a vital planet, rich in resources and strategically positioned between two major alien factions. For years, it had been a neutral planet, untouched by the violence of the galactic war. But that peace was about to be shattered. The enemy, a coalition of powerful alien forces, had set their sights on Eden Prime. If they captured it, they would control a critical passageway for trade and military movements. It would be a devastating blow to the resistance. Captain Hayes and the crew of the Vanguard had received their orders: defend Eden Prime at all costs. The humans weren't prepared for the scale of the battle. The enemy forces were overwhelming, far more advanced and numerous than anything humanity had faced before. But Hayes wasn't about to back down. He had seen the courage and determination in his crew. He knew that if anyone could win this, it was them. "We don't need to defeat them outright," Hayes said to his officers. "We just need to buy time. If we can hold them off long enough, reinforcements will come." Lieutenant Cross, always the strategist, studied the battle maps. "Captain, if we stay where we are, we'll be destroyed in minutes. We'll have to move quickly and use the terrain to our advantage." Hayes nodded, his mind already working through the options. "We'll set up defensive positions in the canyons. The narrow paths will make it harder for their ships to attack us. We'll use hit-and-run tactics to keep them off balance." The humans' tactics were unconventional, but they were their greatest strength. They had learned quickly in the previous battles that brute force wouldn't win this war. They had to be smarter, faster, and more creative. As the battle began, the human forces set up traps and ambushes, using the planet's rugged terrain to their advantage. The enemy's larger ships tried to move in, but they were slowed by the narrow canyons and tight corners. The Vanguard and its fleet darted in and out of the shadows, striking fast and disappearing before the enemy could retaliate. Each time, the human shots found their marks: weapon systems, shields, and key control points on the enemy ships. The battle was fierce, but humanity's resolve was stronger. The Vanguard's crew fought like never before, determined to protect Eden Prime. The humans' hit-and-run tactics kept the alien forces guessing. They had expected humanity to falter, to retreat in the face of overwhelming odds. But instead, the humans stood their ground, outsmarting their enemies at every turn. After hours of intense fighting, the first sign of victory appeared. The enemy fleet began to retreat, their ships damaged and disoriented. The humans had done the impossible. They had held Eden Prime. As the last of the enemy ships limped away, Captain Hayes stood on the bridge, watching the empty sky. "We did it," he whispered, more to himself than anyone else. The crew let out a collective cheer. They had not just defended a planet. They had proven something to the entire galaxy. Humanity wasn't just here to survive. They were here to fight, to win, and to change the course of history. News of the humans' victory spread quickly throughout the galaxy. Eden Prime had been saved, and humanity had shown that they could fight on the front lines and come out on top. The universe had underestimated the humans, but no one would make that mistake again. This was just the beginning. The victory at Eden Prime had sent shockwaves across the galaxy. Humanity had proven that they were not just a side player in the war. They had the strength, the strategy, and the determination to fight on the front lines. The alien factions, who had once written off humans as a primitive species, now had to face a hard truth. Humanity was a force to be reckoned with. But victory in battle was only one piece of the puzzle. The humans had gained respect, but now they needed something more. They needed to secure their place in the galaxy, to ensure that their future in the stars would be more than just surviving. It had to be about influence, power, and leadership. Captain Hayes knew the time had come for humanity to make a bold statement. He stood in the command center of the Vanguard, looking at the holographic map of the galaxy. It was filled with shifting alliances, fractured factions, and uncertain borders. The war was far from over, and humanity's position was still precarious. But with their recent success, they had an opportunity to change everything. "Lieutenant Cross, get me the communications link to the Galactic Council," Hayes ordered, his voice steady. "It's time we made our intentions clear." The Galactic Council was the governing body of the largest and most powerful factions in the galaxy. For centuries, they had decided the fate of many worlds, often with little regard for the smaller species. Humanity had never been part of the council, their voices drowned out by the powerful empires and advanced alien civilizations. But now things were different. When the transmission was established, the faces of several alien leaders appeared on the screen. They were the ones who had once dismissed humanity, now forced to take them seriously. Hayes could feel their eyes on him, each one judging, calculating, wondering what humanity's next move would be. "We've been watching you, Captain Hayes," said Zalathar, the leader of the Zoran Confederacy. His voice was cold, but there was a hint of respect behind his words. "You've proven yourselves in battle, but now you want to be part of the council." Hayes stood tall, his posture firm as he spoke. "Humanity is not here to beg for a seat at your table. We've fought, we've bled, and we've earned our place. We will no longer stand on the sidelines. We are here to lead, to bring our people to the forefront of this galaxy." A tense silence followed his words. The alien leaders exchanged looks, some skeptical, others intrigued. Humanity's audacity was something they weren't used to. Species like the Zoran Confederacy and the Xanthi Council had been in power for eons, their authority unquestioned. But now, humanity was demanding recognition. "We do not seek your approval," Hayes continued. "We will fight beside you, or we will fight against you. But understand this, humanity will not be ignored. We are no longer the weak, primitive species you once thought we were. We are strong, and we will rise to the top." The council members were silent for a long moment. Finally, it was Elinthor, the representative of the Galactic Assembly, who spoke. "You are bold, Captain Hayes, and your actions speak louder than words. We will allow you to join the council, but understand that this is not an alliance. This is a test. Prove that humanity can be trusted, and we will treat you as equals. Fail, and you will face the consequences." Hayes nodded, not flinching. "We will prove ourselves. Count on it." The transmission ended, and the room was filled with a sense of quiet triumph. Humanity had secured its place in the galaxy, not as a pawn, but as an equal. The Vanguard and its crew had earned their seat at the table. But Hayes knew this was only the beginning. The war was far from over, and the challenges ahead would be greater than ever. But for the first time, humanity had the opportunity to shape its future in the stars. And they were ready. The moment humanity had been waiting for had arrived. The decision by the Galactic Council to allow humanity to join as an official member had sent shockwaves through the galaxy. Some alien factions cheered the humans' rise, hoping they would tip the scales in the war. Others saw it as a threat, and some feared what might come next. Captain Hayes stood on the bridge of the Vanguard, looking out at the stars. The galaxy was changing, and humanity had just become a central player in the game. The decision to join the Galactic Council had given humanity a seat at the table, but it also came with its own dangers. The human race was no longer just fighting to survive. They were now fighting for their place in a galaxy filled with powerful forces that had existed for far longer than humanity had even dreamed of. "We're in the game now," Lieutenant Cross said as she entered the room, her voice steady but tinged with uncertainty. "But I can feel the tension in the air. Not everyone is happy about humanity's new role." Hayes nodded. "I know. We've made enemies, and we've gained allies. But we can't let that stop us. Our goal is clear. We need to fight to win, not just for our survival, but for our future." Over the next few days, Humanity's presence in the Galactic Council stirred up fierce debates. Some members supported humanity, believing that their boldness and ingenuity could bring new perspectives to the war. Others, particularly the older factions, questioned humanity's loyalty, and they feared that humans would tip the delicate balance of power in the galaxy. With each passing day, the tension only increased. The Vanguard was now tasked with a crucial mission: to assist in the defense of a critical outpost located on the edge of a volatile star system. This outpost, known as Tylon 9, was a vital resource hub for many of the galactic factions, and it had been under constant threat from the enemy coalition. If Tylon 9 fell, it would give the enemy control over the entire sector. As the Vanguard and its fleet neared Tylon 9, Hayes couldn't shake the feeling that the battle ahead would be unlike anything humanity had faced before. The stakes were higher, and the pressure was immense. The enemy forces had been gathering in full force, and this was shaping up to be a battle of massive proportions. "We've fought smaller skirmishes, but this is different," Lieutenant Cross said as she reviewed the mission briefing. "The enemy is bringing everything they have. We'll be outnumbered, but we'll have to hold our ground." Hayes clenched his fists. "We've faced worse odds before, and we're still here." The battle for Tylon 9 began with a deafening roar as the human fleet engaged the enemy forces. The Vanguard darted through space, its small size giving it an advantage over the larger enemy ships. The humans employed their signature hit-and-run tactics, using the outpost's rocky terrain and asteroid fields to their advantage. Each attack was swift, precise, and devastating. The enemy was taken off guard by humanity's resilience and ingenuity. They had expected the humans to fight like every other species in the galaxy, straightforward and predictable. But humanity's unpredictability made them a nightmare on the battlefield. The enemy didn't know where the next blow would come from, and that uncertainty kept them on edge. As the battle raged on, the tide began to turn. The human fleet had struck hard and fast, breaking through the enemy's lines and pushing them back. Tylon 9, once on the verge of collapse, began to stabilize. Humanity had secured another victory, but the cost had been high. The Vanguard was heavily damaged, and several crew members had been injured. But despite the losses, there was a sense of triumph. Humanity had not only defended Tylon 9, they had sent a message. The universe now understood that humanity was not just a small, insignificant species. They had proven themselves as a force to be reckoned with. The news of the battle spread quickly, and it sent a shockwave through the galaxy. The human forces had done what many thought impossible. They had defeated a much larger enemy force and held one of the galaxy's most important outposts. Now, the galaxy knew humanity was no longer just surviving. They were dominating, and they had every intention of continuing to fight for their place among the stars. The universe would never look at them the same way again. After the victory at Tylon 9, humanity's place in the galaxy had been firmly established. The Vanguard and its crew were no longer just fighting for survival. They were fighting for a future, one where humanity could shape its destiny, free from the shadow of more powerful alien factions. The universe had witnessed their strength, and the consequences of that were now unfolding. The Galactic Council had become the stage for a fierce power struggle. Humanity, now recognized as a dominant force in the galaxy, was rapidly gaining influence. The old powers of the galaxy, who had once ruled with near total control, found themselves forced to reconsider their strategies. Some saw humanity as an ally, eager to work alongside them in a new order. Others, however, saw the rise of the human empire as a direct threat. On the bridge of the Vanguard, Captain Hayes stood before a large holographic display of the galaxy. His fingers traced the outline of several key systems that had been key to the war effort. He had a plan, one that could reshape the galaxy, but was a risky one. "We've done it. We've proven that humanity can survive in this war," Hayes said, turning to Lieutenant Cross. "But we're not here to survive anymore. We're here to win." Cross, now a seasoned strategist, nodded. We've taken on entire fleets and won. We've shown the galaxy that we can lead, not just follow. The next step is critical, Captain. We need to make sure the galaxy knows we're not just another faction. We're the future. Hayes smiled grimly. Exactly. We're not just fighting for survival anymore. We're fighting for power. And we won't stop until we have it. The human empire's rise was inevitable. After Tylon 9, other alien factions began to reach out, offering alliances and support in exchange for protection. They realized that aligning with humanity, rather than against it, was their best option. The older empires, however, began to turn hostile, seeing the humans' rapid rise as a threat to their own dominance. The vanguard was given orders to move toward the heart of the galaxy, a region controlled by the dominant forces of the Xanthi and the Zoran Confederacy. This area was strategically important, and both factions had long held sway over it. But now, humanity had the power to challenge that control. As the vanguard neared the sector, Hayes received word of a summit between the two largest powers in the galaxy, the Xanthi and the Zoran Confederacy. It was a delicate moment. Both factions wanted humanity on their side, but they also feared what the rise of the human empire could mean for their own power. "The summit is set," Cross said, handing Hayes the communication details. "We need to make our move. If we play this right, we could force a new order with humanity at the top." Hayes understood the gravity of the situation. He wasn't just leading a warship anymore. He was leading the charge to reshape the galaxy's future. It was a dangerous game, one that could either solidify humanity's place at the top or end in disaster. The summit began with representatives from the Zoran and Sand factions, each trying to outmaneuver the other. But when Hayes stepped forward, the room fell silent. He wasn't here to negotiate on anyone's terms. He had come to make one thing clear. "We're not here to join your petty squabbles," Hayes said, his voice calm but filled with conviction. "We're here to take control. Humanity will leave the galaxy, and you will have to decide whether you want to follow us or oppose us." The room was silent as the gravity of Hayes' words settled in. The old powers, who had once dominated the galaxy with no fear of resistance, were now forced to reckon with a new force. Humanity had made its move, and it was no longer just a part of the galaxy's future. It was its new center. The rise of the human empire had begun. The universe would never be the same again. The rise of humanity had been swift, and now their strength was undeniable. After the events at Eden Prime and Tylon 9, the galaxy was beginning to understand one crucial fact. Humans were not just participants in the galactic war, they were changing the game. Their ability to adapt, fight, and outthink their enemies had earned them respect. But now, with power came responsibility, and the true test was about to begin. Captain Hayes stood in the Vanguard's command center, surrounded by his senior officers. They had secured victories, formed alliances, and proved their worth on the battlefield. But the next step was critical. Humanity's rapid rise had created both opportunities and dangers. The old empires were fractured, and new alliances were forming. But what would humanity's role be in the next phase of the war? "We've reached a tipping point," Hayes said, looking at the galaxy map. "The enemy is fractured, but they're not defeated. We need to move fast, and we need to be smart about it. We can't afford to make mistakes." Lieutenant Cross stepped forward, her voice steady and analytical. "Our biggest strength is our unpredictability. We've used it to our advantage so far, but we need to start thinking long-term. The galactic powers may not like it, but we have to position ourselves as the central force in this war. If we don't, someone else will." Hayes nodded, knowing she was right. Humanity's survival had been at the heart of their strategy, but now the goal had shifted. They weren't just fighting for survival, they were fighting to shape the galaxy's future. And the humans would need to be more than just soldiers. They would need to be diplomats, strategists, and leaders. "We'll start with the neutral zones," Hayes said. "The Xanthi and Zoran might have their influence, but the neutral systems haven't chosen a side. They're waiting to see who comes out on top. We'll secure their loyalty by offering them protection, resources, and a chance to thrive under human leadership. The plan was ambitious, but it was also simple. Humanity had what the other factions needed: the will to fight and the drive to win. The neutral zones were key, and securing them would send a strong message to the rest of the galaxy. The Vanguard and its fleet set course for the nearest neutral system, where they would begin their diplomatic mission. As they neared the planet, Hayes couldn't help but think about the stakes. The neutral worlds were a mixture of old allies, enemies, and those simply trying to stay out of the conflict. Gaining their trust would require more than just military strength. Humanity would need to offer something different: hope, stability, and the promise of a new future. The meeting with the neutral leaders was tense. The representatives from various planets and systems were wary of the humans, unsure of what they wanted. Many had lived through the horrors of the war and feared being swept up in another conflict. But Hayes knew that now was the time to make his case. "We're offering more than just protection," he said, standing before the gathered leaders. "We're offering a chance for a new beginning. Humanity has fought for its place in the galaxy, and we've earned that place. We won't force anyone to join us, but we will fight to ensure that you have the freedom to make your own choices." The words resonated with many of the leaders who had grown tired of the endless cycle of war and power struggles. Slowly, one by one, the neutral systems agreed to join the human coalition. It wasn't just a victory in battle. It was a victory for the future of the galaxy. Humanity's strategy was working. The neutral worlds had joined their cause, and now they were no longer just fighting for survival. They were building a new order, one where humanity could lead, not just survive. The galaxy would never be the same again. The galaxy had changed. The universe, once dominated by a few powerful empires, was now forced to reckon with humanity. After securing alliances, winning battles, and proving their strength, humans were no longer seen as outsiders. They were shaping the future of the stars. Captain Hayes stood at the command center of the Vanguard, staring at the galaxy map in front of him. The once fragmented systems of the galaxy were now slowly coming together under a new banner: the banner of humanity. The neutral worlds had joined their cause, and even some former enemies were now reconsidering their positions. The tide of the war had shifted, and humanity had become the pivotal force in this new order. "Captain, the latest reports are in," Lieutenant Cross said as she walked in, her tone serious. "We've gained the allegiance of most of the neutral systems, and some of the older empires are starting to approach us. They're eager for an alliance. But there's a catch. They're asking for more than just military support." Hayes nodded, understanding the weight of the situation. Humanity had earned respect, but it had also earned the suspicion of those who had once ruled the galaxy. The Xanthi and Zoran were watching closely, waiting to see what humanity would do next. Would they become the new power in the galaxy, or would they falter, unable to handle the responsibility that came with leadership? "We have to play this carefully," Hayes said. "We need to make it clear that we're not here to replace one empire with another. We're here to ensure that the galaxy is free, that the future belongs to everyone, not just the old powers." The plan was clear. Humanity would not simply take control through force alone. They would offer the galaxy a new vision, one where power was shared, where the cycle of war and dominance would end. But that vision would require careful diplomacy, as well as the continued support of the neutral systems that had now rallied behind humanity. As the days passed, the human coalition began to grow stronger. Some alien factions that had once fought against humanity now reached out, hoping to join the new order. And though there were still those who feared the rise of humanity, their voices were growing quieter. The Vanguard's crew prepared for another critical summit. This time, it was not about fighting. It was about securing the future. The summit would bring together representatives from all corners of the galaxy. Humanity's leadership would be tested, but Hayes was confident. He had seen the strength of the human spirit, the resolve of his crew, and the unity of the new alliance. They were ready. At the summit, the galaxy's leaders gathered. The atmosphere was tense, but there was a sense of anticipation in the air. This was the moment when the future would be decided. Captain Hayes stood at the center, surrounded by representatives from the various factions. "We stand at the crossroads of history," Hayes began, his voice steady but filled with conviction. "The war has taken its toll on all of us. But now, we have a choice. We can continue down the path of endless conflict, or we can forge a new path. One of cooperation, one where humanity leads not by force, but by the strength of unity." The room fell silent. For the first time, the galaxy's leaders realized the truth. Humanity wasn't just a new power in the galaxy. They were the change the universe needed. The decision was clear. The summit ended with a new agreement, a new vision for the galaxy. Humanity had not only survived, they had emerged as the leaders of the new galactic order. The war was not over, but the universe had entered a new era, and humanity, once a small and insignificant species, had proven that they could dominate, shape, and lead the stars. The future of the galaxy now belonged to them. The universe would never look the same again.